G'day and welcome. In this video we're going to strip the Plymouth down and get it ready to replace the body mounts. So I hope you enjoy. Right, the Plymouth, didn't realise the grill's in two pieces. That's where I dropped a coffee down it. Sorry, no, the window's tinted. You can see I dropped a coffee, so we'll clean that up. Some of this stuff's scratched. The bumpers weren't secured properly, so we're scratched on the top there. I have an idea that's meant to be silver anyway. I'm going to replate all the fasteners. They're rubbish and I don't like them, but as I said, everything was so well done, but the thing was just sort of smacked together. I let it all wash off. It's all satin black behind there, and it's just beautiful work. But you know, it just needs to be cleaned up and sort of put back together. That lovely emblem. The front looks like this, and you can just see the amount of work that's gone into this car is phenomenal. It's really, really pleasing. I'm doing it the wrong way. I'm going to get a lot of people saying you're doing this the wrong way because you meant to take the clip off, the whole front clip, but I'm not going to. If I can avoid it, I might leave the radiator support there and just take the guards off. That's sort of what I've got in mind. The other thing is I'm quite glad that I've done this because some of the fasteners look incorrect, and not just that, they're sort of mangy and horrible. So you know what I'm going to do with those, right? We're going to go and get them looking like new again because I'm not putting those back on. These are red, I'm sure. The centre bit, I think, underneath is silver. I'm not sure. But it might be not a bad idea to repaint those. That spear's got to come off before it damages something. But I reckon if I pull the inner guards or pull the outer guards off, I've just got to figure out how to do it. I don't want to scratch any of the exterior paint. The other stuff doesn't worry me too much because I can just repaint it. But there's a good set of those Lucas lights I put in, which are the right ones for the EJ. So I might take them off again. I'm not really sure. But it'll all clean up like new. It'll look absolutely brand new. The guy did lovely, lovely work. So I was never happy with this plating. I got that done another guy. Another guy did that, and I was never ever happy with it. So I might redo some of that when I do all this other stuff. When I rewired it, and of course I've got to undo it again, but it's all good. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to get the guards off, and I'll have to store them inside where the dogs won't jump on them. So I think then we're in pretty good stead to get some of these body mounts done. Just come back from the roadworthy. They put a second-hand tyre on because one of them was a bit too worn on the shoulder, and they knocked back the screen, which surprised me. I thought there was nothing wrong with the screen. It is mechanic's discretion though, and there could have been something in the sweat vision that they didn't like. So I have no bones with that. The other thing that failed are the control arm bushes. So I just bought a repro set of control arms, which I'm less than thrilled with, really. I should have just changed the bushes, but I didn't have time because I made an appointment for the Vic Roads this coming Monday. Work under there. So that will be on Victorian registration hopefully on Monday. Taking bits and pieces out of here. I'm finding a mixture again of metric and imperial. He's used a lot of 10mm quarter inch. It's got a mixture of 10mm by 1 or 6 by 1. It's got quarter fine, there's quarter coarse, there's 5/16 fine and 5/16 coarse as well. So it's a bit of a mixture. I'm just going to tape the edge of that door so I don't scratch it up. And so it's kind of different. I think there's just this one. Where have I put those side cutters? In case I can't. I'll put some side cutters. Forward. Shit, something's holding it. Can you see behind me and see what's holding it?
I can't see it.
What's got that for, Kitty?
I'm gonna cut in here.
You're going to cut me.
I think. Do you have the keys for the blue bag?
So it looks lovely behind here. I need to take that inner guard off just to have a look down where the mounts are. That's fairly easy to get off. just a few bolts. There's one under there and there's a couple there. And there's probably one under there. Yeah, there's one under there. Two there, two large ones. It's getting there slowly. You can see the front end now. And it's all been powder coated and looks lovely. Those brake lines look new. They said they did the brakes. The ball joints look all new. I'll just give it a bit of a wash to really see what's there. The top shocker rubber looks nuts. It's had it, but the control arm bushes look pretty good. So that's cool. I'm hoping I could leave the radiator support on, but I don't think I can. So lining all this up is just going to be horrendous when it comes time to put it back together, but it's the only way, given the room I've got, that I can do it. I've got to take the radiator out to repair what do you call it, leak in it. Free the hose. Here we go. We'll lose all that coolant. Doesn't matter, we can use fresh stuff. There we go. Put that drain off. There we go. And we'll take the red out. Might make things a bit easier. Take those horns out as well. They'll just come off from there. And that'll lighten that up a bit. We can take that off too. Make sure if you do this job, you don't do it this way because it's completely wrong. I should have done it a different way, but I didn't know what I was doing. There we go. And that is the mount. Let's have a look. Oh, the kids are fighting again. Here we go. Doesn't look lovely. These freeze plugs, we call Welsh plugs, are rubbish. I'm going to redo them. Well, I've got the fronty parts in beds. Alana, I'm filming. Stop.
Well, maybe don't film when I'm talking.
Right, Alana. Yeah, they think they're funny. That's the mount. That's the one I want. I'd have thought that was supposed to have rubber on top of it. Between you and I. Because there's rubber. Squashed rubber underneath that. So, I don't think that's right. It's just a good thing I'm pulling this apart. I'm finding stuff on it that should, that I need to sort of finesse. Some of it's brilliant, you know, as I said before, but some of it's pretty rough. But the bulk of it is great. I mean, look at this. Hasn't got a nut on the exhaust manifold. I mean, what the hell's that? It's got this flap thing there too. That's seized open. That's a good thing. You don't want that. Cartridge oil filter. It's a lovely old donk, isn't it? Lovely. Alright, now the other side. What I'm going to do on this car is I'm going to get these fasteners redone. They're so poor. And I just don't like them. I've probably got some XC ones. Actually, that might be. That's a quarter course. No, it's not a Ford one. Normally you can pick them pretty quickly. But that was really clever. But yeah, I want to get them redone. I can't get those threads done, but I can get the nuts done. So I've never been happy with it. I thought it was rubbish when it was done, and I still think it's rubbish now. I've got 57 Plymouth stuff in every car's boot, or at least the Bluebird and the MG. That's 7/16. That's not, that's a half. Here we go. So, you know, it's... you should see the collection of bolts it's taken to disassemble this thing. it is literally a stack of bolts, and that's why it's just so much better to take the front clip off as one. That's sort of pitted, but that one's rubbish. Most of this will just need a wash and it'll come up like brand new. Cool. I don't know if I said before, lining this thing up when I'm done is going to be an absolute piglet, but I just don't like how, you know, it looks cobbled together, and I want it to get away from that. I want it to look like it's all new. I am going to get some of the plating I got done before redone. I had it done during January when Warners were closed, you know, and they're rusty on the thread. Well, the ones that I didn't get done. The ones that I did get done were sort of looked really salt and pepper, and when I put the nut back on the alternator, all this plating dust just sort of exploded off it. But this one's got some white epoxy on one side of it. And most of this stuff you don't see. But even the body mount, or the radiator support mount, is knackered. Absolutely hammered. So, if there's too much else that holds it on, it's going to be tricky to get it off because it's got two large bolts there, and then that whole thing relents. I might just put a block of wood under there so it doesn't flex too much. There you go. Made for it. What are they? 9/16, I think they are. There's all sorts of sizes of fasteners here, and a really healthy cross section of fine and coarse thread, as well as rusted and broken sort of, oh look at that, rusted through lock washers. So we don't do cars like that, or at least we try not to. I'm a complete backyarder, but even some of these threads I noticed were a little bit dicky. That's a thread, it's fine. But some of the 5/16 coarse ones that are really buggered, I can use the XC spare ones. I've got loads and loads of them. This should relent. That's another star washer that's completely rusted. But we'll take the radiator support off. I think it just comes off after this. Doesn't weigh much. And we're down to the wire. So we'll just take that inner guard off. And we're stripped it down as much as we want. We can have a good look at it. And what I'm seeing so far, it looks bloody marvellous. Like lots and lots of new kit has been fitted. But you know, there are sort of fasteners that have castellated nuts and no split pins and stuff like that. So I can rectify that while I'm doing this. Battery repair. Could I have done better than that? Maybe. It's good on the other side though, where all the filler is. It's looking good. I'm going to give the Plymouth a bit of a nude wash. You can see all the stuff here. Looks like surface rust. That's a cup of tea that I dropped all down the front. And it'll come off fine. I'll just grab a hose. Just wet it down a bit and get off all the dust and the grime. Yeah, that's got sugar in it. There's 2 sugars in that. And you can see how beautiful the car is underneath all that dirt and dust and stuff. Of course, you can't really tell until it's dry. That sugar really stuck to it. I don't think it would have caused any more rust though. Sugar doesn't rust. So I'm just going to run around it, just give it a bit of a lick and a promise, and we'll have a look. Oh, what have we got here? We've got a loose caster rod that still has a split pin in it. That's not very fine. Right, well, it's good and bad. Mostly good. There's a few things on here that I've noticed I've been banging on how good it is, but also there are things in here that aren't so great. I need to check all the joints. It does look like it's got new ball joints, as I mentioned before. Things like the fuel lines are loose. That needs to be secured properly. That's an unroadworthy thing. And also, we've got what look like new brake lines here, but the steel ones are the old ones that have just been painted over. And they get quite mangy. I've been sort of going and wiping under here. So I need to check the entire front end out. Now, you know, you did things by no halves. There's a hydraulic block down there that goes off to the rear, and the rear one's cut off. It's crimped over, which is why I've got one in bits here. I hope the wind isn't bothering you too much. But these two front ones are going to put new ones on. And the master, I had a go at rebuilding and it was unsuccessful. It leaked brake fluid all over the floor. And that's rubbish. So that's got to be redone as well. It looks good in places though. This is another, it's all beautiful. The bodywork's lovely. That's another mount that I don't think's right. So now I can access the mount, so I've just got to take the seats out. It looks like the ball joints are being done. I've just got to check all this stuff out. Pack them with grease, move them around, do all this sort of stuff. And it's much easier doing all these things while the car is disassembled at the front. The inner control arm mounts there. Don't quite look great. All right. I think that's what it is. No, it's not. What the hell is that? Oh, that's a torsion bar. That's the torsion bar. The inner control is behind it. But you know, it does look nice. The other thing I've noticed, those torsion bars are either repainted or reconditioned, I'm not sure. The other thing which I noticed was there was a lot of oil and muck on the chassis leg here from the steering box. So there's a good chance that's knackered or at least needs a seal in it or whatever. Again, it's been painted, but some of the stuff has been painted, but it doesn't mean it's any good. Although that does seem... that seems adjusted up well enough. It'll probably just need to seal in the bottom of it or something to that effect. We can check the oil level there. But before any of the front end parts go back on, I want to make sure it's all good, and I might even bleed up the brakes while it's like this before I stick the front on. Right, where to start? I think this car has 12 mounts. I think there's one at the back here in the boot. I think that's the only one in the boot. It's got these outriggers along the chassis that go there. You can see it's in the centre. It's got these ones here. Now they're only in the back, those four. One there, one there. I cut myself. And we've got another one. Where's the other one? There, which is nice and central. There's another one up here. There's nothing under the seat. And they've got this really weird arrangement at the front. Now, that's the original body colour of the car, sitting under there. And the mount rubber is liquefied crap, right? It's got this really weird fastener arrangement. So that flat washer was painted on the car. So was the thread. That was murder to get off. And it's just got this cup washer underneath, and then the rubber sort of sits in here. Now I'm not positive that's how it goes, but it's a sort of a specialist fastener, so I'm going to keep those. I'm not going to replace them. There it is there. That's how I saw it, or how I found it. So you can bet your bottom dollar that's green underneath as well. The motor looks grouse. So you've also got some other bits and pieces in here. This one here uses a stud arrangement. You can see that one poking up. Yeah, there. With a specialist sort of nut. This one here, I thought it was a bolt. And I thought, what the hell? I'm going to have to lift the body quite high. That one's just got to be separated from this stud, and the stud can put back in the frame after the body's lifted just a little bit to stick that little puck washer in. And so what I'll do is... these washers are the inside ones. I'm going to get them plated, and they're the outside ones that go underneath the car. And they're all sort of squashed, you know. So I'm going to plate them, just the washers, because the ones I got I was never happy with. Those ones over there, there's a couple of things here. I wanted to change all the bolts out before lifting the car, so I can get all the washers plated and any specialist fasteners as well, and then lift the car one side at a time. It just means that that inner one there has to be out, because the car won't be able to hinge up on that side if I'm lifting over on this side here. So limited experience doing this, never done it before, but so far touch wood, it doesn't look like an incredibly bad job to do. Yeah, and I'll be relieved when it's done, to be quite honest. Oh, here's the seat. This is a better view of it. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? That's what I mean. I really want to have this type of finish in the car with the gold piping and the fabric. It's just beautiful stuff. You can see all the gold that was in it. When it was new, that thing would have shimmered. Would have been beautiful. Right, so we've got a couple of things here. Most of the mounts are like that. They're probably 1.5 inch flat washer going through the two rubber bits underneath the car. There's one here. There's one there. There's one in the boot, which is a stud, and that's a stud too. And I think I mentioned that the stud looks like this. It's a double thread on a shank, if you know what I mean, and that's tightened into the chassis. Now, I put 2 lock nuts into that and couldn't get it off, and it makes me nervous because it means that I've got to jack this side of the car up higher in order to replace that little puck in there. And this is the side the steering column's on, and also the filler for the fuel tank. What's this? Oh, VCR stickers. So, in order to do this, what I'm going to do, it's a bit awkward because I've got no room, I'm just going to back it off on this side so that all of the mounts are removed from the side that the camera's on, and these ones aren't. But I'm going to I need to, the good thing is actually with this car being apart recently means everything's loose. It just means that I've got to put hardware back in this side to jack the other side up, but I'm taking it out because I want to get the washers plated and this sort of stuff. So that's all we've got. Our flat washer. This doesn't look as central on the chassis as the other side does, which is a bit of a concern. There's the flat washer. They're different sizes, and I think they're 3/8 fine. I think they're 3/8. Yeah, they look 3/8. So I'll take these out and I'll put an alternative under here just to hold it for now while we get those done. Now, as far as this is concerned, I'm just going to stick an old bit of rubber there. And the reason is I've got a whole bunch of these, but they're too thin. So I spot welded them together to make 2, which is no good still because you're going to get moisture between them, rust and all this crap. So rather than putting them in, which are a tiny bit too, well, maybe they'll do. I'm going to say a bit too big. I'm just going to stick some hardware through. I was going to just stick one of those in, just to hold this side. If I can get it in. Hang on, where are we? These actually don't feel like they're seating properly. It feels like the car is too far back. Whatever, let's just put it in, eh? And this will just hold it all temporarily until we're ready to, once we've jacked that side up and put the mounts in properly, then we'll come back and change out the rubbers on this side. That'll do. So we'll change that one out, and the front one, or the front ones, plural, and we're good. Right, well, I'm still going. The front clip on this car would have been much, much easier removing the front clip, and now that I've pulled this all apart, I sort of understand it a bit better. The bonnet, of course, is attached to the firewall here. My finger's wobbling. But the actual front clip itself is really easy. There's 2 bolts under here. On this one, there was only 1/4 inch bolt. There's 3 there, 1, 2, 3, and a 3/8 or 5/16 bolt, sorry. And then everything's attached to the inner guard and the radiator support, and there's one large rubber mount underneath there. So to take it off would have been undoing that mount at the bottom, and undoing the inner guards from these three, undoing those two, then the front clip will stay there, I'd imagine. Then as the last thing, one bolt there and the other on the other side. One bloke on this side, one bloke on that, one at the front, and the whole thing should lift up off that mount and then forward and out of there. Of course, you'd still have to remove the starter solenoid and voltage regulator, and then just undoing these from that block connector on the front, then it's all free. All the horns, headlights, wiring looms for the headlights, everything stays in the clip. So it's nice to know that now, but I wasn't in a position where I could do that. I want to have a look underneath. There's some stuff to get plated. To see how the fuel tank's attached. It's dusty, but you can see how beautiful it is under here. It's all been done. I've just got to zoom back out again. Bumper's mounted to the chassis. That's got to come off, obviously. But the fuel tank is mounted to the body. It's not mounted to the frame, which is great news. So I don't need to take the filler off. Let's just go a little bit further in. I need a stone tray for this car too, which is, pardon me, this rolled panel. Ooh, that doesn't look too good, does it? Look at that. It's just sort of twisted around. So that's the panel that sort of joins up with here, with this, and then comes across and it sort of comes out, it sort of turns and goes in behind this. I was just going to run make a straight stone tray to go all the way across. And I was thinking, because the twin exhausts on these things seem to come, pardon me, underneath that stone tray. But I was thinking about using XBGT tips, the rectangle ones, to keep it all a little bit flatter and not as much hanging down. I don't know. It's worth a conversation. Let's have a look. Okay. There is another mount that I did not know about. Right, that just sits there. I haven't got one of those. So that is a bit of a pain, because I haven't got either of those. So I have to come up with something for that. I'm not quite sure what. I've just undone the fuel sender, because I'm going to be rewiring the back of this car. But aside from that little thing, I'm not really sure. So I might as well take this out while I'm at it. While I was underneath the car, what did I do? I pulled the wire off the fuel sender. This is so crispy. This wiring is really, really hard. And I'm not just going to rewire it, I'm actually going to change the way the wiring is configured for the turn signals, or indicators as we call them, because I want to use the reverse light, I think they're reverse lights, as indicator lights with an orange globe.
Dad,
Yeah,
you drop me off?
and now I have to drop my daughter at work. I'll be back. I don't remember what I was talking about. I think it was just about the way these are wired. We've got spade terminals and just crap. And it's really, look, it's wiring that has rigor mortis. So I've undone the fuel one, so that can all get pulled out from inside the cabin. And, you know, I'm not going to wire it until I've obviously got to do the body mounts. And I'll paint inside here, because I don't want, bog dust and wet sanding evidence and all that sort of stuff around. Yeah, once I paint it, I'll root a new loom in and make it look pretty. Righto, so we need 7 metres. I'm just going to get 7 metres of 20 amp trailer wire. It doesn't need to be 20 amp, but I'll get it anyway. Some of these plugs I won't use. That's the original one, and the one from J-Car that I used on the front half of the loom is extremely similar, but I've got the sort of male part of that anyway. These things I'm not using, but I'll take them off and use them on the EJ loom, because they're the same except in much better condition. So because we're reconfiguring the wiring, means that there'll be different connectors, and I'll have them so that each one's got a proper lock-on plastic connector. And I'll route it back up the way it was, although it was behind the seat. I'm not sure. Hang on a minute. I'm just not sure if it's going to be... I might bring it over the top of the wheel arch. I'll find the best way to route it. I'm sure it wouldn't have been sort of flopped over the way it was, but it could have been. You never know. Right, so I've got a problem. Well, I don't know if it's a problem yet, But I'm just worried about the amount of rubbers we've got. We've got 4 going down the length of the car, 4 double sets. So there's 1 in the boot, in the back. There are 3 in the cabin. So that's those. And then we've got the other side over here. Excuse me, I'm just thinking aloud. Right, so that's that. Then we've got the inboard one at the back, which only seems to use 1 rubber. And we've only got 1 also at the front, at the very front, behind the front guard. Then we've got the radiator support panel at the very front. I think I can do it. And then we've got these ones at the back, which don't go through the floor. They just sort of sit there on the chassis, the forward of the boot floor. So I'm thinking maybe, I don't really know how to do this, because the original ones have a sort of a nipple coming through them that pulls down through the chassis and that locates it. I'm wondering if I can just use like a bolt. These are metric, these are 10mm ones. And obviously I don't want a shouldered one, but if we push that in and have that underneath the forward part of the boot floor, so it's still got plenty of room to compress, and just secure it underneath where that nipple was. I wonder if I can do that. So, I mean, that's what I'm coming up with at the moment. I don't think it's going to be all that viable to get new ones posted out from the States, because it's going to take too long. See, that would work. This mounting hardware is a little bit confusing in some ways. We've got these stud arrangements in the boot at the rearmost part, with an insulated washer, and the mount sort of goes down into that, as well as one underneath, I would assume. So there's those. Again, that's no good. It's been rusted. And there's not much point in just doing one, so we'll use, I'll get some bolts. They're 3/8 fine. Same as that, just a bit longer. And make a sleeve so it's snug in the bush, and screw it down from the top, because there's no nut underneath. These are the 2 inboard ones inside the car that have a larger hole for this type of nut, which fits in like that. There's only 1 mount there, as we mentioned. That one's jammed. I can't get that out, but I don't think it matters much. I'll just leave it there. There are 6 normal mounts. These are the inside washers. They're all covered in muck. We'll get them cleaned up. They just use a regular 3/8 fine bolt, and underneath the vehicle is 6 corresponding large body washers. And these funny ones at the front, which use this arrangement here, and they've got this kind of bell arrangement, I think goes like that, and there's a mount in here. Now, they must be a different mount, and again, I'm going to make something on a lathe to fit inside that mount. I don't think there's any, there might be a spigot on it, because a lot of these ones actually have a sort of a spacer that's welded to the body going down, which locates the bush. Don't know, I have to have a look at that, because I'm only going to find that out once I start checking it up. So I'm going to put all these into be plated, cleaned up and plated, re-zinced, just to give them longevity. And I'll use the original ones. There's nothing wrong with those. They're just a bit grotty. These ones, oddly enough, were screwed right down. There's a spacer or a locator into the body, sort of a hole in the body. And these were sort of screwed right up down to there. And I'm tipping there's no mount on the top. It only looks like a single one underneath. I don't know. But they had that much sort of thread showing, which is only enough for 1/2 of the mount. So you tell me, because I haven't got the foggiest. But I'm assuming that this stuff's all going to be good. If I do get a mount wrong, and there's so many of them there, but if there is one that's configured wrong, I don't think a roadworthy guy around here is going to pick it. I think it's going to be pretty obvious that it's had mounts in it and it's all good. But I think I can make do with what I've got. I've just got to wire all this stuff up, get it all redone, and we're good to go. I might just fire that off too, because I've just seen that burr there. Right, so that is roughly what holds the front clip together and on the car. Even though, you know, as we said before, there was comparatively little stuff holding it to the car, it all gets held together quite a lot. Some of these are stuff that were bits and pieces that I've had done before, so I don't need to get those done again. But there were some which I thought were quite poor. That's probably passable, I don't know, but you know, these sorts of things, I want them all cleaned up. We're not going to do a wheeler dealers and stick bolts like this back in on a nice new looking paint job and everything. There's also, where is it? Oh yeah, the XC's headlight or bulb retainers, blade retainers there. I think it was the springs. Did I take the springs off? EJ Holden distributor stuff. Containers and containers, just crap for this car. I'm not sure what I need and what I don't. Some of this stuff's obviously been replaced. I've emptied out and condensed a few cans of stuff together. Even that was kicking around. Don't even know what that is. And there's also these rubbers, which are just horrid. They're so knackered. And I don't even know what that is. That's no good. I don't need that. But I've also got to think about how I'm going to approach those. So, you know. One thing that I have... Oh, it looks like it goes behind a window winder or something as well. I've got to go through all this stuff. I don't know what it is. One thing I've noticed, the scuff plates on this car are very, very long. The door's extremely long on it. They're aluminium. I will have them hydroblasted and they'll come back beautifully. They're a little bit weather beaten, but they've been painted, and unless you etch aluminium properly, it just peels. It's rubbish. So I'll get those done, and I'll get the headlight buckets done too, because they're aluminium as well. And once we get that stuff back, I've got to string it all up with this. I got this from the reject shop. It's not copper, and I'm just hoping that it's going to be all right. So once I'll put something heavy on the bottom first, hey? Once we get this stuff back, we can go ahead and start to reassemble our car. So I'm just going to get them randomly and stick them on here and twist them around. And this is really fine wire. I'm really hoping this is going to be alright to plate with. Traditionally, we always use copper. It's black anodized. And you know, the original ones from the car that have got green and red on them. I want them to look good. And if they don't come back looking good, I'll replace them. Oh crap. What have I done? Ah, that's better. God, I hate doing this. And if this wire's no good, guess who's going to be doing it all over again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Take very good care of yourselves. Enjoy your classic, and I shall see you soon. Do I need to add anything? I've got a feeling I've forgotten something. Oh, I don't know if I told you, the Corolla's registered. See? And a wonderful bloke sending me the right mirror. This one's got a weird... I've no idea if you can see the reflection changes. It's a cheap mirror, it's horrible. So, in the boot we have 13 strings of plating. There's one or two EJ Holden bits there, but the rest of this is all Plymouth Belvedere. Oh, XC Falcon, those two. But the rest is Plymouth Belvedere. So I'm going to take this down, including some of the crap plating that was done before. I've rehung there, not much of it. And hopefully this wire's good, because it's cheap stuff from the reject shop, and it's really easy to string stuff up with. It's not copper though, but it is electrically conductive, so hopefully it's alright. I'm going to take this down, and this will get me on the way to getting the thing back together. I took this door off a Polo. I bought a replacement from the wreckers for like $100. Cheaper doing that than, what do you call it? Repairing it. Still got to do something down here where that rust is. These are a fair prick to do. If you ever do one, there were little clips hidden in there and I didn't see them. I've got to put that one in properly. So they're really complicated, but not at the same time, if you know what I mean. Good idea to have a bone You can just work your seals up nice and easy. The seals are really easy to bend. I've got to work them a little bit, I'd me better. And the other thing, when they painted the door, they took that part of the hinge off. These things you just undo a grub screw and they literally unhook. You can just pull them off like a gate, and there's a plug there for the wiring. It just clips in. I pulled all the B-pillar trims off and I didn't need to. Cheap job in terms of doing it this way rather than a panel beater, but just horrendous when you're not used to Euro stuff. But they are hands down the best little car. I think it's an absolutely beautiful car. It's a little 1200cc turbo 6-speed manual, and it goes that well, and it's that much fun. It's kind of like a Mark 1 Golf. It reminds me of one of those. Not that I've driven one of those in about 35 years, but it's been a while. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But it's going to be infinitely better than it was. The paint's cracked up here. Where is it? I saw it here. That's scraped off any galvanising that was there. I don't know if these are though. I'll rub that out and put some phosphoric acid on, and I've got some spare white. You can see that paint's chipped there, but it hasn't damaged. There's no rust. But I'll have to do something about that too. This was a pain. I had this car here for 8 months, and I didn't know what to do with it. It was Mum. She stopped driving. 50,000 on the clock. It wasn't worth anything. They lose value very quickly, cars like this. And I said to my brother, you should probably take it. And he actually didn't want it, but I persuaded him to take it because he was driving this AU XR8 Ute around. Expensive on fuel, but it wasn't all that reliable. And a week after that, I found out about the Takata airbags in the starlets. And so that's what prompted me to build up another starlet out of the old ones we had. Anyway, I just thought you'd like to see it. All working, it looks good. That dog leg's sort of pushed in a bit. I'm not going to do anything with that when the weather finds up, because we're going to get, it still looks alright at the moment. We've got forecast a whole bunch of rain coming over the next week, and it's starting today. So I'll do that sort of rusty area there later. It looks good. Well, it looks alright. Anyway. What do you reckon? Shit. Move. Move, cat. Move. Move. Come on.